All right. So although the initial idea for having the online platform is to collaborate on a project, however, this can also extend to more social engagement, okay, as evidence in these two examples. So the first one shows that, they plan to socialize after completing the project. So you can see that she says, after this task, we are free to chat everything, right? Okay, and then the second example shows that they could learn communication skills as they interact and perform the task. Okay, so that's the beauty of, allowing students to collaborate on a project, because that will be extended, that in most of the cases, it is extended to social engagement. All right. Now, we have seen the importance of how creating the online learning community may promote learner engagement. Now, let's move to the second strategy, that is using relevant and right content in making sure that learners are engaged in their learning. So how do we achieve this? Now, in today's presentation, I will just focus on three, something typical, something that we all may have used, which is game-based, authentic materials or topics, and task-based approach or problem-based approach. Okay, so the first one. So firstly, the game-based approach seems to work well with the current generation, right? And we have seen that, most of the time, I believe many teachers use this. So as you can see from the example, so this is taken from the quizzes, which is one of the game-based platform, freely available in the net. So I have created some of the questions, some of the quizzes in here. So if you look at the records, so actually I made this public, okay, so everyone can have access to them. So if you look at the records, it demonstrates that each topic has been played for quite a number of times. For example, the learning taxonomy has been played for like 37 times, CV writing 221 times. So what do these depict? Yeah, so as we know, using games in learning is highly desirable by our students, all right? And as a result, this is very engaging for them, as they get attracted and excited to play the game. So that's why many of the instructors have resorted to use games in their teaching and learning. Okay, now, other than game-based approach, obviously authenticity in the content should also attract the students. Well, you can assign your online students to interview people working in the field. You can do that. They can do that online, right? And to otherwise bring their learning out into the community where they live. So in our ESP classes at UMP, we actually have invited speakers from the industry. So as you can see from the example there, we have one of the industry personnel. He has accepted and he agreed, to talk about job interview skills to our students. And we also have activities in which our students interact with students abroad about common issues faced in each other's countries, like unemployment issues. And we also have students to describe the culture, traditions of their home countries. So as you can see from the example, so if you look at that real example, so he said, "Hello everybody, I want you to know a little more about my home country, which is Mexico." So actually the student is from Mexico. So, when someone describes something close to them, everybody will feel like, okay, there's a real example. So this may push them to engage in their learning because they can relate. They can feel the contents which are relevant to fulfill the purpose of their learning. And I believe in this era of online learning, offering students with such opportunities is even easier because most of us are connected via the internet. Okay, now, next, finally, we talk about using relevant content, all right? So relevant content may relate to how we plan our activities actually. So as with other fields, I believe for language learning and teaching, we are all familiar with task-based, problem-based, or case studies, all right? So students can be grouped to work on projects or together and analyze local data, which are just a few of the many examples of how we can plan such activities. Now, as you can see from the example here, everyone is responsible on his or her own case to put forward in the discussion. Now, if you look at the first example of the first lady up there, she says, my issues here in Kuantan, and then the second one talk about issues in Port Dickson. So, you know, when we create problem which is close to them, a task or problem that they have to solve, they may be pushed to compete in presenting their arguments among each other, and as the issues relates well to them, they will be more attentive in responding to the task and to participate in the discussion. So with that, we hope that, you know, their learning is more engaged in that sense. Okay, now the third strategy, I'll move to the third strategy, which is choosing appropriate learning platform as a way to boost learner engagement. So when we choose learning platforms, we're talking about, of course, online learning platforms. The platform should be user-friendly, which is easy to operate with multimodality function. They should support social media, various group forums, chat functions, which can all be used to communicate between those in the learning community. And of course, choosing a learning platform that can run on various OS or anything that students or majority of the students are familiar with, like Windows, iOS, you know. Okay, so this is one of the examples that students use Skype to interact. Of course, there are many other platforms like Zoom, Google Meet, WebEx. And in this example, as you can see, one of the students was in the Netherlands and the other one was in UMP Malaysia. I think you can read the statements in the chat box. So as indicated in the chat box, although the internet connection was not that good, these two students, they spent almost, as the record shows, so they spent almost an hour and a half to complete the task in a pair. So we believe that that is the sign, the extent to which they are engaged in completing the task, even though they face technical difficulties, but owing to the user-friendly and multimodality of the platforms, they still were able to complete the task. Okay, now, so obviously one of the important strategies as we educators have to do in order to examine learner engagement is, of course, to evaluate our own performance. All right, so this can be done with regards to, for example, our online sessions that we have conducted, the online contents that we have prepared, the activities, and even the participations of the students throughout the online course. Okay, I believe evaluating performance is so typical. It is typical even in a traditional face-to-face setting. However, in an online learning, evaluating performance is much more important because in this online medium, we can see that it is lack of human touch, Therefore, a dedicated feedback plan is required for us to evaluate so that we can improve the issues reported. Okay, now, one thing I would like to highlight is that it is worthwhile to mention that some students, of course, they prefer anonymous feedback. So, as instructors, if we could accommodate such a preference, I think we can get rich data for the feedback so that, we can improve further. Okay, so one example that we have done is, of course, in one of the means to collect or to evaluate our performance is through administering the questionnaire. So in our case, we have administered a questionnaire to know about how students feel in terms of the activities that we have conducted via audio or video conferencing platform. Okay, another example is that we can also ask the students for weekly reflection. It can be weekly, it depends on the duration of the course, or perhaps at the end of each topic or module, it could be an option for reflection to take place. So if you can see there, this is an example of weekly reflection that we have gathered from the students. Okay, so to conclude, as I have mentioned earlier on in the presentation, the challenge in online learning is that the students can feel isolated, and the learning process can be alien to some or majority of them. They might feel lonely, they might feel that I'm all alone here, not having the chance to say hi face to face to the friends, to the teachers. But anyway, as I've mentioned, we could implement some of the strategies to ensure or enhance learner engagement. So as I've deliberated, the 4 strategies may be used. So consequently, the outcomes may indicate a potentially successful learner engagement. So, all right. With that, I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nick, for a very interesting talk on the strategies. And I think that the strategies listed out by Dr. Nick just now is actually doable in our current situation right now, doing online classes with our students. Okay, now we move on to the second panelist for this afternoon, which is Dr. Bambang Widi Pratolo. Dr. Bambang holds a PhD in TESOL, which is Teaching of English to Speakers of Other Languages, from Monash University in Australia. He is currently a senior lecturer at the Faculty for English Language Education, Universitas Ahmad Dahlan, Yogyakarta in Indonesia. He has been the editor-in-chief for the English Language Teaching Educational Journal, WELLT2020, since 2018. In his presentation this afternoon, Dr. Bambang will identify problems of online learning and how to cope with them, including how to engage and to motivate students in online learning, with particular emphasis of the Indonesian context. With that, I present to you Dr. Bambang.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, Dr. Bambang.
Before I start my presentation, I would like to share with you the PPT presentation of mine. Hang on. Yep. Can you see that? All right, so this is what I'm going to touch on: learners' engagement in online language learning and teaching practice in the era of COVID-19. So most of what I'm going to talk is actually already discussed with the previous presenter, but I will also touch on a little bit about the problems that we have experienced in Indonesia. Now, if you take a look at the so this photo was taken long ago in 2009. So now this is me at the moment. All right. Before I start my elaborations on the learner engagement in online learning, I would touch on a little bit about the effects of COVID-19 pandemic in daily life. As we all are familiar with and aware of, that the COVID-19 was in fact a sudden incident for every one of us. And I believe that no one has really been well prepared on what would happen during the COVID-19. And as an effect, this has, given a very a tremendous impact on the economic life, social life, political life, healthcare, and also education. In economic, I believe that you are all aware that almost in every country in the world, the economic situation is getting worse. It almost stops, actually. In the social life, it's also different. In the normal life, people can get along with others and meet people in person and talk very freely. But during the COVID-19, everything is limited. So people cannot socialize anymore freely. People cannot talk freely to others. And when we have to communicate with others, then we have to wear masks, things like that. And then also the political life. COVID-19 is a very sensitive issue in politics. In Indonesia, if you pay attention, then it's become a very serious issue, because it becomes a weapon for the opponent, for the opposition to attack the government. And then in the healthcare life, it also affected a lot. In Indonesia, if you read the papers, then more and more doctors and other medical personnel, passed away because of this COVID-19. And then also people cannot have freedom anymore to go to the hospital. Everyone was terrified with the situations in the hospital. And then education is in fact also affected. The education it's actually everywhere, not only in Indonesia. So in Indonesia, all the schools are closed down, from the kindergarten, primary school, junior high school, senior high schools, and also university, all closed down. And that has given a very, serious impact to all the educators and also to the students. This is the figure that I took from the UNESCO. This is the situations in early 2020. So when the COVID-19 happened in early this year, it was still very slow, but the peak happened in April. So in April, most of the children everywhere in the world were affected. And then now it's still affected, but it's going down, but not so well. So we are not quite sure when the situation will be better. Now, what about the problems in Indonesia? So I would like to share with you what the minister's view, the Minister of Education, Nadiem Makarim. This is the Indonesian challenge. In archipelagic Indonesia, the challenge of making sure all students have access to remote learning is enormous. That's what he said. I think it's understandable, because Indonesia, consists of more than 17,000 islands across the country. I think everywhere in the world, not just in Indonesia, distance learning will, at least in the short term, have a negative impact on educational outcomes and qualities, because it takes long time for people to adapt to new way of teaching and learning. That's what he said. Well, I think it's not only in Indonesia that the teachers were not well prepared with the situation like this. So not many of us were in fact familiar with online learning. So when COVID-19 happened and we have to switch from the normal schooling to the online learning, then it gives us a problem. This is in Indonesia, is even more acute because of the huge diversity of geographic challenges, infrastructural challenges, he added. The challenges are enormous, really. Yeah. In Java itself, which is, the center of the government, the infrastructure is not equal between one city to another city, let alone compared to the islands, far away from Jakarta. The situation is very much different. Now, this is based on the study conducted by Rohyani and Arif, online problems in secondary school in Indonesia. The first one is teachers' disability in accessing technology. He said it's only 30.3%. It's so small. It looks like that all the teachers are, well informed and have got good capacity in doing the online learning. But if we take a look at more data, then we will see that this figure, 30.3, is because the teachers were only using Zoom and WhatsApp, the two applications which are so familiar and very easy to use, to operate. The second one is school facilities in supporting e-learning, which is 75%. That's quite a lot, actually. As I told you earlier, that the facilities between one school to another school, between one city to another city, is different. It's so divergent. The next is the difficulties in explaining the material, which is 85.7. It's a lot actually. Why it happens like that? I think we are now, aware that because the teachers were not well prepared with the online learning, so they didn't know how to explain, how to make the students understand. So they've got problems in explaining the material. The next, students' limitation in accessing the internet, which is almost 90%. Well, this is what really happened in Indonesia, that not every student has got the device, has got the laptop or a PC or the mobile phone. So they do not, if they have the device, they do not have the internet access. The next is students' economically disadvantaged family background. Well, because this research was conducted during the pandemic, so lots of families, lots of breadwinners lost their jobs, so it becomes serious. And the parent support system include also the experience of the parents in dealing with the online learning, how the parents can help the students with the online learning. This is the steps to address the problems. Still, this is what the minister said. He said his ministry has taken several steps to address these problems, including the first is launching a national TV station to air educational programs, because TV has a far greater reach compared to the internet in the country. So if you are in Indonesia and you watch TV, then there are some programs aired by certain TV, airings about the educational backgrounds, programs from kindergarten, primary schools, and so high school. The next is dramatically simplify the curriculum to focus on essential numeracy and literacy skills. So giving teachers time to adapt to remote teaching. This is very much different from the normal time. So in the pandemic, the curriculum was made simple. This is to help the teachers, pass these very difficult situations. The next is allowing schools to the freedom to spend national budget allocated to them on items as laptops and tablets. And then the last is subsidizing mobile data for students to improve their access to remote learning. The last one is, this is a very interesting issue. Why? Because not everyone, if they've got, if they've got the mobile phone, they do not have the data. And if they have to be online from morning to the afternoon, and after that they still have to be online doing the assignments, then they will have to spend a lot of data, which means they have to spend a lot of money. And that's why the government helped the students and also the teachers with the data. So this is the mobile data subsidy for teachers and students. I do not know if it also happens in your country, but like, for example, in a peserta didik jenjang PAUD, this is for kindergarten, for the students, they've got 20 gigabyte each month. And then for peserta didik jenjang pendidikan dasar dan menengah, or the students of primary schools and secondary schools, they got 35 gigabytes. And then for pendidik, this is for the teachers now, of PAUD or the kindergarten and then primary schools and also high schools, they receive 42 gigabyte each month. And for us, the lecturers and also students of university, they receive 50 gigabyte each month. And in fact, those data cannot for YouTube, cannot for watching movie or other things, but they are only used for the online platforms. Now, this is the common challenges of online learning. The problems happen in most parts of the world. The challenges of online teaching. The hardware facilities and Wi-Fi conditions are uneven across schools and areas. In one of the studies conducted in China, it was very terrible. It cannot meet the needs of online teaching. I think it's understandable. Why? Because we were not well prepared with the new normal life today. So our understandings and skills on the IT was still not so good. The next is the online resources and the platforms are insufficient for online teaching. Maybe because not many lecturers or not many educators post their online materials, so they cannot get access to the resources that they can use for their students. Then students, parents, and schools have different expectations of online teaching, and the last is the need for quality individualized education cannot be satisfied by online teaching. This is the solution suggested. The first one is by optimizing Wi-Fi and hardware facilities and integrating quality online resources and platforms. In Indonesia, as I told you earlier, we already got these solutions by the government, and the government has already given the data subsidy to us. And then creating a smart environment for home-based teaching and learning, choosing suitable online teaching modes. It deals with the platform actually. So like, in Indonesia, some universities, they really prepare earlier. They already, receive some grants from the government to develop the online learning platforms. And for these kinds of universities, they were well prepared. And they didn't have any serious problem when they have to switch from offline to online. But for many others, they have problems. The next is enhancing interaction in online teaching. This is the key, because in fact, online teaching is also similar to offline teaching, where the interaction between lecturers, between teachers and students is very important. That's why it needs to be enhanced. Now, language task engagement model adapted from Egbert et al. 2019. As you can see there, the language task engagement facilitator. I think the previous presenter has already talked about this, the authenticity, which consists of relevant value and then social interaction. There should be a social interaction between the learning participants. And then learning support, there should be provided, and then interest, situational, personal, and autonomy and challenge. The language task elements includes the content or the topic. So make sure that the topic and the content is really interesting and authentic. Instructional groupings. This is very important, especially for very big class. It's sometimes very hard for us to, for example, to assign one student to do a presentation in a very big class. That's why we need to do a groupings. And some platforms like Zoom is possible for us to do the groupings there. And then the strategies, resources, goals, process, tools, assessment, and product. So although, it's an online, but there should be an assessment process there that is reliable and also valid. The next is level of language task engagement. The indicators of task engagement, behavioral, which include participants, attention, effort, persistence, and then cognitive, emotional, agentive, and social. So there should be a willingness to communicate between the learning participants. And our job as the teacher or lecturers is to encourage them to communicate with others. Language task outcomes, which include language achievement, content achievement, task performance, attitudes, and metacognitive strategies. Now, there are 5 simple ways to engage and motivate learners. The first one is set clear learning goals. Number 2, making the learning convenient. Number 3, get creative with course content. Number 4, reward learners for engagement. And number 5, create open communication channels. Now, I'll talk more detail about this. The first is set clear learning goal. Learners perform better when they know what exactly is expected of them. So setting and communicating clear learning goals in a language that they can relate to is one of the key learner engagement strategies for capturing an audience attention right from the start. Then invest some time in understanding the unique needs of each learner. In any e-learning course, there should be some overlap between the goals of a course and the personal goals of the learner, which is acceptable. The next is making learning convenient. Convenient is no longer just nice to have. Today, keeping learners engaged and motivated is a necessity. A quality LMS or learning management system is one of the most important tools for capturing courses that can be accessed anytime, anywhere. Structure content in a small, manageable chunks that are easy to digest. Then consider the types of quick access resources that learners want to engage with frequently. This could be templates, tools, short videos, checklists, or even infographics that summarize a procedure. So stop learners from losing interest in a course by using active engagement strategies. So like the previous example offered by the previous learners, by providing the game-based platforms, game-based learning, that will be very useful in this point. Deliver learning content that is creative and fun to interact with. Just remember that fun is a means to an end, not the end goal itself. So again, do not waste too much time on the fun thing. We still have to focus on the objectives of the learning. Reward learners for engagement. So as far as learner engagement strategies go, acknowledging the effort learners have invested in learning looks like an obvious choice. No, sometimes it's very hard when you have the synchronous mode. You know, when you have a synchronous mode, and then in fact, not everyone is turning on the camera, then you are not sure whether they are really on the laptop or they just, lie down, sleep, or even doing other things. The next is starting by understanding the things that motivate and inspire learners to keep bettering themselves. Is it a friendly competition with peers? Is it a personal progress bar that provides a visible measure of improvement from one assessment to the next? Or is it perhaps acknowledgement from the course instructor or the subject matter expert? The last, creating open communication channels. So many of the common barriers to learning can be resolved with improved communication. So design course so that open communication channels are prioritized from the start and make sure that learners understand how to use them. Design these channels to allow feedbacks and opinions to be shared and make clear that each opinion is valued and heard. The principles of online teaching. I think if we just take a look at this and try to implement this in our teaching and learning process, then it will have simplicity in technology. So when we are choosing the technology, make sure that it is a simple technology. It's not too complicated. So the students and also us as the teachers can just use this. It's a friendly user-friendly. The next is immediate feedback. Sometimes and most of the times in online learning, to identify whether the students attend the class or not is by giving assignments. So it's all right actually to assign students to do work, but something that we have to remember is we need to give feedback. We need to give the feedback as immediately as possible, so that the students feel like, okay, they are really valued by our involvement in giving feedback. The next is interactive communication. So I think if we do not want to do it synchronously in every class we have, it's all right. But we have to have a regular, regular session where we have a synchronous session meeting with the students, and in that meeting we can communicate up students live. The next is precision management. It deals with how you manage the class. So like making the learning contract with the students at the beginning of the semester is very important. So the students know exactly what they are expected to do, and we know also what the students really want. This is the journey towards authentic engagement. I think this is the last slide. So if we take a look at this diagram, then we see that there is a situation where the students or the participants in our class are really disengaged. When they are really disengaged, then we need to do an intervention. You see there, intervention A, B, C, and D. It means that we need to do intervention. We have to make a kind of new technique, for example, to attract the students. Or maybe we have to provide the learning content which is really interesting for the students to make them engage. Or probably the time when we set the the assignment, for example, try to make it as convenient as possible. So the idea of this is that we have to do a kind of strategy. Maybe we need to develop or we have to do a kind of amendment, not only in the way how we teach them, but also in the learning content, and maybe also assessment and other things to improve or to make the students engage. Maybe by improving the quality interaction, things like that will help you make the students engage to your materials. Okay, this is the key success factors of e-learning. The first one is technology, human resources, and organization. When we are talking about the organization, we are talking about the culture of the organization and the policy, the rules of the games, which is applied in your organization, in our university, in our schools. So make sure that the policy of our organizations is really supporting this, and not supporting not only in terms of verbal support, but also providing with infrastructures and some other help assistance. The next is human resources. The human resources, in this case, is the teachers or the lecturers, need to improve their knowledge, skills, and attitude towards the online learning. That's why regular professional developments on improving the technological skills is very important. And then the next is technology, the availability, the reliability, the accessibility, the usability, and the completeness. So if we want to make the e-learning in our university or in our place is successful, then make sure that, for example, like the internet connection is made strong, and everyone, every student in the university has got a certain amount of, for example, like a data, or they got a free Wi-Fi and other things. And probably also, if you can, or if we can develop our own platform, which is customized to our own needs and which is user-friendly. I think these three things will make the e-learning in our place successful. Okay, everyone, I think that's it from me. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bambang. It's interesting to note that I think being developing countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, we seem to share the same issues or the same challenges, students complain about internet connection, about data and whatnots. And I think our respective governments have been trying hard to actually assist us to meet the challenges head on, so that teaching and learning can still occur in our institutes of higher learning. Now, zooming in live all the way from Osaka, I would like to present to you Professor Kiko Ikeda, and let me just read out a fraction of her impressive CV. All right. Hi, Keiko. Are you ready? Now, Keiko Ikeda is a professor in the Division of International Affairs and KU COIL coordinator at Kansai University. Recently, she has taken the role of the principal project manager for the Inter-University Exchange Project funded by MAX 2018 to 2022, which is COIL Plus program to develop global career mindsets. Kiko is Vice Director of the Institute for Innovative Global Education, IIGE, at Kansai University. She has a PhD from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, specializing in Japanese linguistics, foreign language education, and conversation analysis. Her interests in the international education field are internalization at home, constructing active learning programs in collaboration with universities overseas. Keiko also plays a vital role in another line of the ongoing government-funded project, Success Osaka Project 2017 to 2021, which promotes the employability of international students who have studied in Japan. In her presentation, Professor Ikeda will touch on COIL, which is Collaborative Online International Learning, or VE, Virtual Exchange Pedagogy, particularly on the blending opportunities for international experience and globally connected learning for learners who are geographically distant. See. I present to you Professor Kiko Ikeda.
Thank you for introduction. Very much happy to be a part of this event today. Let me start my presentation by sharing this slide with you. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, once again, thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to talk today with a wonderful representative groups here. Let me start introducing a bit about my university, then move on to talk about the COIL and other initiatives that we have been doing at the Kansai University. So my university is located in Osaka, Japan. For those who have been to the city, it's a lovely business-centered urban environment and the second largest city in the country. We'd love you to have you visit Osaka sometime when we have a somewhat normal days back. Kansai University has about 130 plus years of history, founded as a law school first. And now it's a comprehensive university with 13 departments with the various disciplines. UMP and Kansai University have become partners back in 2015. And since then, we have been very active in our collaboration, particularly in relation to online-based education. For today's talk, I'll be addressing these points for this presentation. Not in the order listed here, but I will be indicated, it'll be mentioned and touched on throughout the talk. So point 1, addressing the benefit of creating virtual classroom using tools such as LMS. Point 2, how COVID-19 has elevated international education to pivot online. And point 3, currently ongoing language learning and teaching programs online at Kansai University. And then point 4, tips to assure a rich learning experience for students in the virtual classroom. Let me start first with the COVID-19 context for international students or prospective international students. QS, as you know, have been doing a regular survey on international students, but this has been very informative for us. Here are some of the results from the September survey this year. Of these existing students, the majority are experiencing online learning, with 51% choosing all online, or 22% selecting mostly online, with some face-to-face teaching in the chart. As the majority of respondents stated that coronavirus had affected their plans to study abroad, with about 69% selecting this option. prospective international students are adapting their approach to account for the new restrictions and adapting online learning. In the ongoing QS reporting of the survey, we can see the interest in online learning appears to be very gradually increasing. The proportion of respondents who are not at all interested in studying online has declined from 42% in March and then now 37% in September this time. So what these pieces of information tell us is that the new normal phase that we face through the COVID-19 era, it's obvious that online education will have to accompany and then be embedded into our learning scheme, at least for higher educational institutions, with no turning back. To meet the students' needs and to overcome given crisis, virtual classroom, including COIL, has been given much attention. We're certainly generating more of this kind of learning spaces now, given the context we're going through. The virtual classroom is a shared online space where the learners and the tutor work together simultaneously. Usually, these interactions take place through video conferencing. In a virtual classroom, instructor's role has a particularly important role in the moderator who guides the learning process and the support group activities and discussions. For virtual classroom, there can be two sorts, one synchronous and the other asynchronous. The virtual classroom go back and forth, and some of them go back and forth in a blend two styles. Synchronous virtual classrooms have the potential to provide significantly added value to the online learning by addressing the needs of the learners as they relate to social interaction and psychological safety. Asynchronous virtual classroom also brings good effects as well. It eases up the digital loads. Thus, for those with limited access to internet, for example, may appreciate this mode. It also allows individuals more time to digest and learn on their own pace. This also leads to what's understood as psychological safety for students as well. Reflecting on this trend, we see a great amount of efforts being done in the many institutions in the world. This is a snapshot from Oxford International Virtual Classroom, in which they have students from overseas actively engaged in the Zoom live session for English lessons. Virtual classroom is now coming into not only for domestic teaching that pivoted online, but it now seems to turn a new page for international education as well. My home institution, Kansai University, is also doing some efforts now. Osaka is where Kansai University is located, shows a very good control over coronavirus spread at the moment. It indicates about 50 to 60 newly affected each day, and almost all of them are at the mild or no symptoms of the illness. So given this, it now ceases to have all online curriculum for the fall semester, then going back to face-to-face. However, we had purposely retained some of our semester courses online and opened up for overseas partners of ours. We allow the students from over 200 international partners with Kansai University and to be able to participate in the ongoing class with the domestic local students together virtually. We're calling this Kansai University Engaged and Exchanged Online Learning, EOL. This is a kind of virtual classroom with the intention to rapidly respond to the current situation. In Japan, right now, no international students are able to enter the country for quite some time. They gradually open up a border now. So at this point, there are no physical student exchange-based actions is taking place on campus. In order to bring the international experience to the students on campus, as well as for the prospective international students, this Kansai University EOL program was much on demand. We also engage our students in another kind of a virtual classroom, which is called COIL. In order to illustrate what it is, Florida International University is a good friend of ours, has a great movie to describe what it is. And I'd like to just to show a part of it to illustrate for you. So let me play that.
COIL, Collaborative Online International Learning, is a powerful form of global learning for both teachers and their students. With COIL, teachers in different institutions, countries, and cultures partner to design experiences that will challenge their students to connect their diverse knowledge and perspectives across borders of time, place, language, and discipline. COIL is an accessible form of global learning because it's often embedded within existing face-to-face, hybrid, or fully online courses. COIL collaborations can involve courses in the same discipline, such as students comparing different marine conservation practices across the world, or in complementary disciplines, such as architecture and anthropology students teaming up to create more culturally responsive building designs. COIL experiences usually last from 4 to 8 weeks, and they involve 3 main components. Icebreaker activities that help students get to know and trust each other. A collaborative task that demands diverse contributions from every person participating. And reflection activities that help students transform their COIL experiences into new ways of thinking about themselves, others, and the world around them. COIL.
Okay, so I hope you got that little gist about what COIL is. It was really nicely described very briefly, but with the illustrations. So with these various methods of virtual classroom, including COIL, we're trying to design more accessible, affordable, yet international education for the students at higher educational institutions. This effort can also apply to other levels of institutions as well, and let alone the language learning. Now, let me introduce my center, IIGE. We promote COIL as a methodology to enrich teaching and learning, including language teaching and learning at my center. It was 2014 when we launched our COIL practice on campus. The formerly known as KU COIL Center was awarded in 2018 by Next Japanese Education Ministry with grants to provide direct training, networking opportunities, and support to the other institutions in the country and in the world as well. With the enhanced role, Kansai COIL Center adopted more comprehensive namesake, becoming the Institute for Innovative Global Education, IIGE, in that year. So why is it COIL very important for us? Let me start with the proposing what we're aiming at a higher education, particularly what is called graduate attributes. What are the ways that we wish our students to be future ready? That's what it is all about. For instance, we want our students to have various ways of thinking. For example, lateral thinking, critical thinking, and having an innovative mindset to become a global citizen with a leadership. And Kansai University have considered potential that this particular practice, COIL, can bring us much offers and opportunity to train and develop these competencies, let alone cross-cultural sensitivity and foreign language learning. Now, let me share with you some important features that should be paid attention to in order to assure a rich learning experience for students in the virtual classroom. And this includes language learning and teaching, of course. What I would like to do now is to summarize the important conceptualization together, and that should be kept in mind for all kinds of virtual classroom. First is enhanced interactivity. This creates a positive learning environment and helps the participants achieve the expected outcomes. During the virtual session, there should be opportunities for frequent interaction between learner and instructor, as been said by the two panelists already, and the learning other learners and the learners in the content. The instructor creates opportunities for both independent learning and the learning from one another, and guides the learners in developing and practicing the skills they need. This increases the motivation level of the learner as well as interest in the learning activities. Next is blending learning styles. Differentiated instructions, which takes into consideration the differences in the needs, levels, and learning styles of the learners. Virtual session indeed creates opportunities to meet a wider range of the needs of a student. Switching between individual work, small group collaboration, class discussion addresses the specific learning preferences of all the students, either to work alone or to interact with others or to express themselves in front of a larger group. Third is collaborative learning. This has been also mentioned by both presentations. Like COIL, learners work together to achieve a common goal, exchange views, clarify the meaning of concepts, or solve problems together. Develop precisely for exploring the differences in the participants' level of knowledge, skill, and positions. Virtual class with collaborative learning opportunities will increase learners' enriched learning. And lastly, psychological safety. This leads to a better learning outcomes. When they have personal space and time allocated in the process of learning, it often fosters creativity, confidence, and a willingness to experiment on the part of the learners. The virtual teacher also has a crucial role here. They need to encourage safe discussions, mutual respect, equal opportunity to participate, and the free sharing of different viewpoints. Now, this is the last component of my talk here. Let me share our newest developments at the Kansai University in relation to language learning and teaching. In order to enhance English learning opportunities for Kansai University students, we have developed what we call language learning COIL, which focuses mainly on language exchange, learning and project collaboration in the practice. We began with our American university partners in early 2020, so this is upon responding to this COVID time. So far, we have done with the 6 universities listed in this slide. One most recent development is to make a collaboration agreement with Alex Foundation, this is indicated in the slide. This foundation has over 50 American institutions in their network, and they train and dispatch Japanese language teachers to these universities. So these American universities initially do not have Japanese language programs, but now with the dispatched prospective teachers, they have a program, language program to offer Japanese on campus. So with that, collaborating with those teachers and their classes, we established what we call tele-tandem, so language exchange or in a virtual style, language learning experience to both students who are studying Japanese and to students who wish to polish their English skills at our own, my university. So this is LLC, we are calling it. In addition to USA universities, IIGE has its global network. It has now over 40 universities in over 11 countries, including many in Asia. It's a free membership for higher educational institutions, and the aim is to develop a community among the partners who wish to make a connection to Asia and the Pacific. IIGE, together with the various collaborating organizations, we provide training, workshops, and webinars on online international education and effective virtual classroom. And we also have annual symposiums, new matching opportunities for collaborations, and also have a training workshop on technology and assessment tools. So I will invite you to, if you're interested, to let us know and see if you could be a part of this, a great community of practice. Okay, so I'd like to bring this presentation to close. With a deeper understanding of virtual classroom and the use of various tools available, We're now in the digital world era in which the learning is possible online. I hope what I shared today is something informative for your daily teaching practice. Thank you so much again for allowing me to be a part of this event today. And here are my informations. Here's the link for my center, IIGE. If you can just search it in the browser, it should show up as well. I have a LinkedIn account, and I post many events, seminars, opportunities. We take place at our center in LinkedIn quite often, so please do check. And this is my email address if you're interested in joining into part of the IIG network, or just to be chatting with me regarding further collaboration possibilities. I would love to hear from you. Thank you very much once again.
All right, thank you very much, Keiko, for a very interesting talk on the opportunities for online learning. And I think in this very short span of time in this afternoon, we have actually been exposed to doable strategies for learner engagement in language classrooms by Dr. Nick, and we have also been given some perspectives of the challenges faced by educators in Indonesia from the presentation of Dr. Bambang, and Kiko or Professor Ikeda actually walked us through online learning, but on the international platform, and it involves collaboration among institutions. And I think this is a great start for us to also start looking into going beyond our borders, right? Now, coming back to Malaysia, I would now like to invite the final speaker for this webinar. Now, he is an esteemed guru of online in Malaysia. We bring to you this afternoon Prof. Abdul Karim Alias, a digital content developer and an enthusiastic education YouTuber. In the limited time that we have, I cannot do justice to Prof. Karim's biodata, but the following are some highlights from his extensive CV. Dr. Abdul Karim Alias is a professor of food technology at the School of Industrial Technology, University Science Malaysia, or USM, and currently he is director of the Center for Development of Academic Excellence. He is a strong advocate of leveraging the internet as an alternative medium for learning and teaching. To achieve this mission, he has developed and maintained several teaching portals, websites, online courses, and blogs related to teaching, learning, and research. As of October 9th, 2020, his teaching videos on YouTube channel have received more than 860,000 views from more than 190 countries, with an estimated hours watched of 49,000 and a total of more than 4,900 subscribers. Okay, wow, right? In his current role as director of the Center for Academic Excellence, Prof. Karim is responsible for designing and running a professional development program in technology-enhanced learning and student-centered learning for the academic staff at his university. With his active involvement in online learning, Prof. Karim has been appointed as co-chairman of the Technical Committee for Malaysian MOOCs Initiative, a project by the Ministry of Education of Malaysia. With that, I present to you Prof. Karim, who will be sharing on approaches, strategies, and some tools for learners' engagement. Prof. Karim, the Zoom is yours. Yes, Prof. Karim, are you with us? Can you hear us?
Oh.
Yes, you're on.
Oh, I thought I've lost you. Okay,
go ahead.
So I can start, right?
Yes,
can I start?
Please.
All right, okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ainul. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And hello, everyone. Respected speakers, Dr. Keiko Ikeda and Pak Bambang, and all the participants. Thank you to the organizer for having me. It's a great pleasure to share with you on this topic. My sharing within this about 20 minutes, I would like to share something about the strategies, approaches, and some tools of students' engagement. I hope you can learn something as a takeaway from this webinar this afternoon. Okay, I've given you the module that you can use. It's more than what I can cover in this short session. So feel free to use the module and please share far and wide with your colleagues and your friends. Okay, let me share the screen. Oh. Oh, I have I have to leave a meeting and come back.
Okay. All right. Okay. While waiting for Prof. Karim. Okay. Now, we have had a very interesting. We have been listening to very interesting points from the three speakers, and we're waiting for Prof. Karim now. Now, I have received some questions from the audience via the Zoom chat. Okay, so we will compile all of the questions, and I hope that by the end of the Prof. Karim's session presentation, we will start to discuss, or I will pass the questions to the presenters. Now, if you have any specific presenters that you would like to address your question, you can please you can state it in the Zoom chat or in the FB chat who you would like to address the question to, right? Okay. Now, if we look at the current condition now, okay, and in Malaysia particularly, when it comes to online learning, we have also.
Okay, let me check. Can you see my screen now?
Not really, Prof. Okay, yes, you are. All right, then. Are you ready to start?
Okay. Okay,
right.
I'm so sorry. Because just now we did not test the system. I just changed my computer, so that's why I have this problem. Okay, once again, my apologies. So let me start. I've given you this module, so feel free to use it and share with others. The topic for my sharing is about engaging students, or students' engagement, or learners' engagement and motivation. And okay, during the session just now with the two speakers, I've tried to engage you using Twitters. So I would like to thank a few of you here who have responded, who have tweeted something here. For example, Dr. Vanita, Dr. Azwin here, and a few others. Thank you so much. So this is only one of the tools that I use very frequently to engage students. Usually, I will get my students to summarize the 1 hour class session using Twitter, just one tweet to summarize the 1 hour session. That's really a skill that we should teach our students, how to summarize in a short and concise manner. So speaking about student engagement in learners' engagement in teaching a language, to me, language teaching has huge opportunities to use technology and integrate the use of technology in the teaching of in the language teaching to make it as engaging and as interesting and captivating as possible. Okay. We've been talking about learners' engagement, but we have yet to define what is it actually, learners' engagement or student engagement. So now, if you can look at this screen now, the question on the screen, what does learner engagement mean to you? So you just go to the link given there, www.wooclub.com/ the capital letters as shown on the screen. Okay. So very quickly, I want you to think, put your thinking head now. We've been discussing about learners engagement or student engagement, but we have yet so far to define what is it actually meant by learners engagement. And to you, what do you understand learners engagement from your perspective? So please share your response now very quickly. Okay, can see something on the screen already. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have second one coming. So let's see how many can we get within a very short time. And I don't want to dwell so much on this because I have to move on. Time is very limited. But this is very important part, perhaps the most important part of the whole session today, because we've been talking about learners engagement in language teaching. But what does engagement means to you? And how do we design our course delivery or our learning design in such a way to achieve that so-called engagement? Okay, so let's see. We have here meaningful learning. So engagement, learners engagement means meaningful learning, interest and motivation, immersive online learning, students participating in the lesson and stay interested in the lesson, being able to motivate students to learn. This is learners engagement. Okay, what we are doing now is a learners engagement. Yes. Partly what we are doing now is actually I'm trying to engage you in the learning activities here and engage you at least at some level of cognitive engagement. Okay, being able to motivate students to learn, empowerment and feedback, the two-way interaction between teachers and learners, creating rapport and interest among students. Wow, thank you so much. Really appreciate your response. Otherwise, my session would not turn out as what I have planned. Okay, maybe from all these words, so far we have 17 people have responded. Let me just turn this into a word cloud. Okay, with limited responses, the word cloud is not really a cloud. But anyway, we can see here meaningful learning, learners. So we can see learners at the center. So when we are talking about learners engagement, I really like what we have here. Learners is the biggest font here. So we put learners in the center. Start with the end in mind. So we have motivation, feedback, discussion, connection, creating, empowerment, and so on and so forth. Right. Thank you very much. That's, ladies and gentlemen, the first tool of engagement that you can see on the bottom left here. The tool that I'm using here is WooClap. Well, when we talk about learners engagement, doesn't matter, regardless of the subject matter. Language, in fact, language is really offers a lot of opportunities for learners engagement using technology. But regardless of any subject, if we learn how to use and integrate technology seamlessly in our learning design, it can be really engaging, even better than the face-to-face conventional classroom. Okay, but we have to learn the tools. So we need to have a set of tools in our toolbox. Okay, not so many tools. I would say 4 or 5 tools, but you know how to use it effectively, meaningfully, and purposefully. Okay, because a fool with a tool is still a fool. Okay, now, so when we talk about student engagement, so you have access to the module. If you go to second one on student engagement, okay, engagement and motivation, they are closely related. In fact, motivation is a prerequisite before we can get students' engagement. So the first thing is we have to think about the motivation, the element of motivation. How do we motivate students? Only then we can engage students, because we are dealing with adult learners. adult learners, the adult learning principles. Adult learners will learn when they have motivation to learn. They will learn when they have reasons to learn. They will learn when they see the context of what they learn, they can apply in their, in their job, in the workplace, in their life. Okay. So therefore, we need to first, when we talk about learners' engagement, start with the motivation. Okay. So why are we concerned about learners' engagement, especially in the context of online? Because even in the face-to-face environment, it's very difficult to engage students. The first and foremost is to establish the connection. Whether it's online, whether it's face-to-face, the first thing, a connection. Because once we have the connection, we can get attention. The attention span of today's millennial generation is very short. On average, according to this research, it's only about 9 seconds. So it's really very, very challenging to connect the students with the students throughout the session, throughout the class, because they will get disconnected a lot of time. Even now, as I'm speaking now, I don't know what you are doing there in front of a screen, or maybe you are not there. So there is a challenge, a true challenge that we are facing, a real challenge. Okay. So when we talk about students' engagement here, we can see strategies for learners' engagement. As you can see here, 5 do's for engaging your students. I just run through very quickly. Stay relevant, stay organized, keep it interesting, remain up to date, add interactions. So I don't want just to show you all this and saying this to you, but I want to demonstrate and illustrate to you within this very short time. But basically, when we talk about learners' engagement, there are 3 things. Engagement of students, interaction between the students and their peers, engagement of the students or learners with the content itself, and engagement and interaction with the students and the teacher. These 3 things must be addressed and designed into our course delivery. All right. So if you look at this, the dimension of student engagement, there are 3 basically: behavioral engagement, affective engagement, cognitive engagement. And to me, the most critical here is the cognitive engagement. This is where we will engage them cognitively, take them to the highest level of Bloom taxonomy. Now, I will stop here, and I want you to go now to this website. Okay, on your phone or on your laptop, just go to socrative.com. Please do it very quickly. Socrative.com, click login, and click student login. Okay, click student login and name. So just hold on. Yeah, just hold on here. Then, okay, I repeat again. Go to socrative.com, click student login, click login and click student login. You'll get this page. So you need a room number. So I'll give you a room number in a second. Okay. So I want you to do this quiz now. There are 6 questions. Oops. And each question, after you have answered the question, whether you answer it wrong or you answer it correctly, you will get a feedback. Okay. So I will launch a quiz. This is from the teacher side. Okay, requires name, show final score, open navigation, show final score. Okay, start. So your room number is IMK209. IMK209, that is your room number. Then please enter your name. You can enter your real name or you can enter your nickname. Okay. I can see Keiko also here. Thank you very much. These are very relevant quiz. Let's see how many or how much you know about COVID-19 and coronavirus. Don't worry if you get it wrong. This is just an exercise to show you how we can do learners engagement very easily by using a tool of technology. Okay, I will hide this one for a while so that people don't see what other people are answering. We will come back. I'll give you about maybe less than 1 minute. So let's see, because I have about slightly more than 6 minutes left in my, I'm putting my timer here so that I don't exceed the 20 minutes given to me. I'll try to stuff everything as much as possible to illustrate some point of okay, and now I'm using Socrative. And let's see how many of you have done. Don't spend too much time. Just if you don't know the answer, just shoot any, just answer. Yeah. Okay, let's see. All right. Now we have, how many do we have here? Okay, not all of you attempting or trying to do this, but it's okay. These are some of the active participants here. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your participation here. Now, I can see quickly these 6 questions. Red mean wrong answer, incorrect. Green means correct answers. So very quickly, I can see the performance of my class already. I can see number 4 here. There's a problem. There's an issue here. So maybe the students don't really, maybe they have a misconception or they get a wrong fact. So I need to spend more time in my class. Let's say tomorrow I have this class, I will spend more time here. And I can see their score as well. Okay. Now, if I look very quickly, question number 4, why most students get it wrong? Oh, are people living with HIV always more at risk? What is the correct answer here? I can see the correct answer here. And there's some explanation to this, some feedback to the students. Imagine if we try to engage the students in the asynchronous mode. We tell the students to do this question before they come to the class tomorrow. And the 6 questions that I designed here have been aligned with the outcome that I want to achieve in the class tomorrow. So the students perform this, they have done some study in order to answer the questions. So when we have a session tomorrow, I'll just go through this question one by one. So this is one of the strategies that I would strongly recommend to you because I really find it very, very effective. This is a strategy that in this task number 1 here, the strategy for student engagement, asking essential questions. And I just had my class yesterday. I spent the whole 2 hours based on this mind map, and this mind map was created by the students. This part of the learning activities that they have to do. So I picked a few mind map, and I spent the whole entire 2 hours questioning the students, go through some of the facts, and the questions that I asked are already designed so that I can make sure the student would learn the content and would achieve the learning outcome for the class that I've the outcome that I've planned for the class. So one of the simplest way of engaging students are by asking questions, but not just simply a normal question. We have to learn how to ask the right questions, how to ask essential quality questions. So I would recommend you to read this book. I have this book with me here. You can see, here I have the book as a proof that I study this book. So you can buy this from our Kinokuniya bookshop here in Malaysia. This really can give you a deep student engagement. And I have tried this yesterday, 2 hours. I think I'm very, very happy with the outcome. Okay, so these are some of the tools of engagement. So back to student engagement. When we talk about student engagement, these are one of the model for student engagement. You can Google SCORE. Okay, SCORE. These are adapted from this article, strengthening student engagement. This is available. Actually, the whole article I think online. Quite long article, but very, very good article discussing about this model of student engagement, which is the element of success, curiosity, originality, relationship. I don't have time to elaborate this, but feel free to check out this article, but basically the gist of it, the essence of it, intipati of it, we designed at least 3 elements of engaging online course, which basically engage, interact, and action. So we design learning activities. I've given you 2 examples in this short presentation to engage students, and we can engage them at a low level or the high level of cognitive domain. And by doing that, we get students to construct their own learning and create their own meaning. Get them to interact. Remember the 3 elements: interaction of student and student, content, and student and lecturers. And they will do. We get them to do, we get them to think, we get them to spring into action. All right, so I'm reaching at the end of my 20 minutes. I think that would be enough just to give you some ideas, but I've given you the module. Feel free to explore a lot more you can learn, and in fact, you can apply immediately in your classroom tomorrow some of these strategies that I've shared in the module. Thank you very much. Thank you, and hopefully this will be useful and of value to you. Thank you for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Karim. Now, those are, I would say, those are very, very practical tools, and as mentioned by Prof. Karim, it is something that we could actually immediately apply in our classrooms. Now, we have listened to the 4 panelists, each sharing their vast experience in different aspects of online learning. And now we continue to the question and answer session. I have a few questions here with me, and I will try to read them out and see if any of the panelists would like to address those questions first. All right. We have discussed just now mainly focusing on what we would call children, the regular learners, meaning to say those with not really significant special needs. Now, in the case of COVID-19, everybody, without fail, no exceptions, everyone has been affected by it. So, in the case of special needs students or special needs learners, such as those with ADD or autism, is there any special approaches or is there any difference in order to engage them in the online learning environment? Is it possible to still expect them to perform like the regular students? So I open the floor. Do I have any takers from among the panelists? Prof. Karim, Keiko?
Yeah. To be honest, this is a difficult question for me to answer because personally I don't have the experience. But I know this is actually one of the issues in online learning. If we claim that the online learning can be very inclusive, and we support SDG 4, the inclusive quality education. But how exactly we do this? How do we conduct the online session, learning activities, and so on? Even those, people that they have a different ability or disabilities can perform. To some extent, I know, for example, if we create content in the form of video, so we can we should have the subtitle in the video so that people with impact hearing, they can read the subtitle on the video. But again, this is not my I don't have much kind of knowledge to share here. Maybe hopefully our other colleagues, Dr. Keiko can share, maybe Pak Bambang as well.
Just share some of the reports on the media in Japan. They have talked about, in fact, this online, pivoting online, this past semester, for example, have actually enhanced the participation of the students with the disability. In fact, and it's because of the fact that for the real-time participation might be difficult, but as Dr. Karim has said, the asynchronous, there's a delay and on-demand participation allowed them for social psychological safety that I mentioned about in my presentation. They have their own time and take a pace, their own pace. They can actually participate. So allowing a lot of channels for online learning styles might actually enhance the participation for those with a little bit of different styles of learning. So blending many ways of learning, it might be the key. And it has been mentioned, particularly not from higher education, but for K through 12 situation, this has been quite an improvement on their participation because of the fact that the online education was integrated. I just wanted to share that.
Right, okay. Dr. Bambang, would you like to add to that?
Well,
Yeah.
actually, I gave up to these questions.
Oh.
Look, even in the offline learning, it's very hard to make the ADD. Some the students who is or who are suffering from ADD, the learning target and learning object. So we have to make it more simple in the sense that the most important thing is to make the students learn something. But in this case, it's very hard only to rely on the device. So in my opinion, the best way is by integrating the online learning with someone who is physically able to help the student. So in this case, the role of the parent is very important. So involving the parents in making the students learn, especially, that's what I believe. So yeah, so be flexible with the learning target, learning objective, and other things, and also be flexible with learning resources. So I believe the parents know very well about what the student or the children like the best. So in this case, by exposing the children with the content which is very educational to that particular students will help the children, I believe. Thank you.
Okay. What about Dr. Nick? Would you like to add anything to the discussion?
I think I would agree to all what the three speakers have mentioned. Just a little bit addition to it. Again, when we talk about learner engagement, engaging the special needs children, special needs students, I believe we can focus on their interests. So if we talk about, even though no matter what kind of specific needs that they have, these children would have a very kind of obvious interest in certain things. So to start or to begin with, we can start with the topic of their interests. So that's what I think that's what we can do to start engaging the students.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much to all the speakers for contributing to that issue, to that question. I hope the one questioning it is happy with the responses we've gotten from the speakers. Now, to move on, when we talk about effective learning, there must always be the feedback loop, meaning to say that the learners must have some kind of feedback from the instructors. Now, when we have face-to-face classes, its feedback comes in many forms, not just verbal, but also in the form of our body language. Sometimes, for example, in language classes, the students will actually look at the facial expression of the teacher. If he or she has mispronounced a word, then he or she will actually say it in the expression of the instructor before even the instructor has said anything. So in the form of, when we talk about online learning, all right, this is something I think which is a challenge, all right. So and Dr. Bambang just now did mention about giving immediate feedback. Now, what if immediate feedback is not possible, right? Due to maybe the internet speed, or maybe because synchronous learning or synchronous sessions do not really happen for extended periods of time or very frequent, as opposed to asynchronous sessions. So how do we give feedback effectively to our learners? Maybe we can start with Dr. Bambang.
Okay, thank you very much. well, different place, different problems. In Bahasa Indonesia, we can say lain ladang, lain belalang. So in Indonesia, the problem might be different from the problem in Malaysia and also the problem in Japan. But again, when we are talking about immediate feedback, then the idea is how to make, well, the idea is to make the teachers not delay giving the feedback. So the point is, if the teachers can do it immediately, just do it immediately. So regardless well, of course, by considering the situation. For example, when the connection is good and he is able to do that, then just do it straight away. Otherwise, the student will get distracted with other courses. Because when we are talking about the offline learning, then the students giving questions and then the teachers just give feedback right away, and that's the time when the ideal situation is happening. So the same thing, like if you can do it, if you can give the feedback right away before the students go to the next courses, for example, that will be ideal. But something that we need to remember is never delay giving feedback until the next session. So like when we post assignments this week, and then the deadline is in 5 days, and then the following week we post
from you, Prof. Karim, what tools would you suggest that could be very effective, or effective at least, in giving feedback to the learners? Could it be any tools online, immediate, and also, synchronous and also asynchronously? Do you have any suggestions?
Yes, many.
I know you would have.
There are many ways of giving feedback. Using through the platform that we use, our so-called e-learning platform. That is probably the first one. But I think nowadays students expect us to give feedback quickly using, for example, the WhatsApp. But it depends on the lecturers. Some lecturers, maybe they do not want to have a WhatsApp group with their students. In my case, I have a WhatsApp group with the students, and in terms of the immediacy of the feedback, I think they prefer to do it through WhatsApp group, and that's how I do it. But at the same time, I think the first thing very important about giving feedback is to set the expectation, and this should be made it very clear. We make it very clear in the first day of the first class of the semester. What is the expectation with respect to feedback? How fast would you expect feedback or response from me, for example? So if you put it on the WhatsApp, so maybe I will try to answer it when I have time to do it. But maybe I will give feedback anyway. But if you put it on our learning platform, in the e-learning course, then what will be the time kind of range? Let's say within 24 hours or within 12 hours, I will respond. So we have to set the expectation very clearly to the students. So in terms of tools, there are many tools that we can use. That probably I can share.
that we have not done before. We have to switch pivoting online all of a sudden and everything online all of a sudden. But now it's coming to the second phase where we can think about, okay, what is actually most effective to do it online, and then what actually is better offline. For instance, for the students with a very little internet access, for example, providing a paper-based materials might be actually better for them for having more access to the education. So that's not to be thrown away. In other words, we have more channels that we can see that as an option. That's how I see, at least from my end, how to actually combine what we build up as online education to what we traditionally have at home ground.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
agree.
Sometimes it's
I
gonna
think it's
take
not
time.
only the immediacy. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
This is what I'm gonna say, Professor Karim. When we are talking about the giving feedback, when we've got a lot of number of students and everyone expect immediate feedback, and we do not have enough time to give the immediate feedback, then maybe one of the best way is by setting a synchronous class. So where in the synchronous class, we discuss about all the questions from the students and the feedback that we give to them. So by doing that, it's gonna save time, our time and also their time. But still, the problem is when this deals with the written work, for example. In written work, sometimes the feedback should be accurate and also in the accurate, meaning that when it is dealing with the language, then it can be about the structure, about the contents, about the ideas and other things. So in that particular thing, in that particular case, then even though it is synchronous, but it will not satisfy everyone in the classroom. But at least for the general issues, then that synchronous class can help.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
I think apart from the immediacy, how soon should we respond or give feedback, is also the quality of the feedback. The quality of the feedback to me is more important, but the urgency, how fast should we give feedback, also would depend on the urgency of the students maybe question. Sometimes we can give a more delayed, as Dr. Keiko mentioned just now. A delayed feedback sometimes is better than a quick or immediate feedback. Yeah.
Okay, I think thank you very much. Just now, we the hosts were disappeared for a few minutes. It was actually a heart-stopping moment for me. No, it's okay. I'm glad that the discussion was continuing. Without me being around too. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the third question, right? And I think this is a challenge faced by most instructors because COVID came quite suddenly. I would say, like out of the blue, and suddenly, from face to face or maybe just blended learning, we were suddenly instructed to go fully online, 100% online. For us who have been teaching even for maybe 10, 20 years, it was still a huge challenge. What more for the younger academics, right? So maybe you could share, based on your own experience, maybe what would be the best way to start? If we were to tell our younger colleagues, like, where do we start when we start going online? Like what should we do first? What comes first, next, and whatnot? Maybe some kind of a simple process or procedure in when we start going online, so that we can assure that we are able to engage the learners and not just basically finish the syllabus. I mean, that's not the aim of learning, right? So I would like to first invite Dr. Nick to say a few words on this, and then maybe the rest of the panelists.
Okay, thank you. So basically, as I have mentioned earlier in my presentation, one of the things that we have to do is that we have to create that online learning community first, and we need to ensure that the students they know us. They know us, and they know that we are part of them. They are part of us, and they are part of each other. They are part of that learning community. And then from there on, we can build up. The building up rapport is I think that is a must for a class to start.
All right.
So other than that, I think other panels would like to add on.
All right. Maybe I don't know, Prof. Karim or Keiko or Dr. Bambang, anyone? Would you like to add on to that? Like where do we start?
Yeah. Well, yeah. For novice, I mean, people who have, who are still new or just embarking on online, it could be very overwhelming to them. So where to start? Start small. Start with the baby step, and the focus should be on the learning outcome. So I think the first thing that we have to keep in mind when you design your online course delivery is to uh, get students involved, doing something. So go for design the learning activities around the learning outcome that you want to achieve for that particular session. But what kind of learning activities? So this is where people got stuck or people get stuck. So I have shared in the chat box one book, very, very excellent book, and it's free by Curtis Bong. If you have been in online learning for a long time, you should know who is Curtis Bong. I think Professor Keiko maybe knows him. Professor Bong has written this book together with another person and has given this book for free. And in this book, you will find 100 plus learning activities, different kind of learning activities, different level of engagement, cognitive engagement that you can use in your own classroom. So do not worry, fear not, worry not, study this book. Just take 4 5 learning activities to start with, you are good to go.
Right. Okay, thank you, Prof. Karim, and thank you for the link. I think that's really precious. All right, now what about?
Dr. Zailin kata dia dah jumpa Curtis Bong.
Okay.
Hai, Dr. Zailin.
Okay, now.
Lama tak jumpa dia.
Okay, Dr. Keiko, Professor Ikeda, do you have anything to add?
Well, I mean, that was wonderful advice. I mean, start small, and do not think the grand view, or do not aim for Nobel Prize level of learning from the beginning when you're just starting out. And another aspect that I would add to is when you are thinking about adapting IT technology, think about accessibility and affordability for both yourself and for students. And particularly if you are not quite sure how to use the technology yet yourself, if you're not comfortable when using it for your teaching, and you're going to be thrown into a very panicky mode. So stick with the ones that you feel most comfortable, and you don't have to use multiple tools at once. You can just stick to one tool that you feel very comfortable. Just use it, stretch the possibility of that usage, and that actually creates a very much of interactivity. Two is really a means to make the learning interactive. It's not the technology that using technology for technology's sake.
Yeah.
It is the learning and teaching you want to bring up your students, and also for students. The environment that they're taking a remote teaching and learning, for example, you're going to have to ask them and see what's they're comfortable as well. And if this learning the technology tool is interfering from their learning, the core learning that they should be taking up on, then you shouldn't actually force it through. So you're going to have to see the both sides of accessibility and affordability.
All right, thank you, Keiko. Now, Dr. Bambang, would you like to add?
And that's anything? A good point, Dr. Keiko. So in my opinion, what a novice teacher needs to do first is picking up the technology in which he is feeling most comfortable. Otherwise, he will spend too much time, working on the technology that he does not know much. That's the first one. So choose or pick up the technology or the platform that he is feeling comfortable with, which is so simple. That's the first one. And the second one is also being wise with the learning target. You cannot expect too much from the students in the online learning like this. And number 3 is to educate your learners to be an independent learners, because at the moment you cannot expect the students to learn only from you, because now knowledge is everywhere. The students can get access to any knowledge from from the sky, and it's limitless. So the most important thing is train your students to be an independent learner so they can explore by themselves. I think that will help.
All right. Thank you very much,
Inshallah.
Dr. Bamban. Okay, I think we have listened from all four, and as much as I would like to continue, all good things have come to an end. And although this has been a very stimulating afternoon of sharing and learning from one another, I would like to express our heartfelt appreciation to our esteemed speakers, Prof. Karim, Prof. Ikeda, Dr. Bambang, and Dr. Nick. And our special thanks to our partner, Universitas Ahmad Dahlan, for co-hosting this webinar with us. And last but not least, to all participants from all over. Now, I would also like to apologize to everyone for any shortcomings, particularly the technical glitches that we suffered from during this webinar. But I think that is actually good experience for us so that we know what to expect, right? And then we don't expect perfection when it comes to dealing with technology. Okay, so let this not be our last engagement. And we look forward to welcoming you all again to our future series of webinar, and also in 2021 to our International Conference on Language Learning and Teaching, which is ICOL 2021. Now, before we disperse, before you exit the Zoom, I think the Dr. Azun Arif, I think, would like to have a snapshot of everybody on Zoom. So please turn on your camera so that we can have some kind of like online group picture.
Inshallah. Everyone, please turn on the camera.
Can you please on my video?
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you again soon, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye
you.
from Penang.
Bye from
Bye.
Yogyakarta.
Bye from Japan.
Oh, okay.
Bye,
All right.
Malaysia.
Check out my YouTube and subscribe.
Okay, I will. Inshallah. I think I need to.
I share a lot of videos on my YouTube channel, all the teaching and learning stuff, inshallah.
Yeah, but I already opened that link. That
you're in your offline
Karim,
training, Professor.
Oh, okay, this one. Yeah.
Well, just go to YouTube and search my name, ABD Karim Alias. You'll find the channel, inshallah.
Okay.
So thank you very much,
Thank you both.
UMP.
Thank you
very
both.
much.
It was
Dr.
great learning.
Bye. Thank you, Keiko
Yes,
Keda.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
everyone.
Dr. Bambang. Thank you, Karim.
Thank you very
Bye.
much, Professor Keiko. Bye.
Thank you.
Subhanallah walhamdulillah. La ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. Subhanallah
I like the music,
walhamdulillah. La ilaha illallah wallahu akbar.
You can say it once or 100 times or more. You'll feel a peace inside and it'll open every door. That's the power of remembering Allah. It's the best way to purify your heart. Know you will be loved by the merciful one. 'Cause that's the power of remembering Allah. Subhanallah walhamdulillah. La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah walhamdulillah. La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. So much you can gain just by saying those few words. You can renew your faith and be showered in reward. Oh, that's the power of remembering Allah. It's the best way to purify your heart. And know you will be loved by the merciful one. 'Cause that's the power of remembering Allah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Subhanallah walhamdulillah wallahu akbar. Masisondele Masisondele Muyuala